All right. Hi, everybody. There's still some people coming in, so we'll let you guys fold in, but we've got a lot to do. So if everybody's good, we're going to get started. Okay. I see a lot of people still filing in. All right. Um, okay. Welcome, everyone. I am really glad that you're here. Today's going to be a little bit different than most webinars that you'll attend. Usually someone gets on, spends 20 minutes talking through and teaching a process and tells you why it works. But today, we're going to do the opposite. I want to hear Chris talk, and he's living through this transformation right now. And so we're going to unpack why his story reflects a pattern we continue to see inside growing advisory firms. And then we're going to end with what you can do to implement some of the changes in your own business. So Chris Brown is with us. He is the founder and president of Ivy League Financial Advisors. They're located out of Virginia, and he has a team of 4, and they are lean and mean. Okay. Chris and I actually met through the Billion Dollar Firm Masterclass. And so if you've attended one of those sessions, it really centers around the concept that you don't have to be a billion-dollar firm to run like one with systems and structure and even more in place. So Chris, let's kick this off with a few questions about your firm and what all you're going through. So question number 1, before we started working together, what were some of the things that you felt needed to change in your firm? Could be a team with you, investments, whatever.
I think the number one thing is that so just a quick profile of our firm. We've got 4 people. We have 104 client relationships. We manage about $200 million, right? So I think the biggest thing is that I felt capacity constrained because I was wearing too many hats. So I was the chief operating officer, chief compliance officer, chief revenue officer, chief technology officer, chief whatever officer. And so even though I've got 2 wonderful staff members who is a CFP and a staff member who I just added as my son, I felt like, and I had all the client relationships, and I knew that if I needed to grow, what I needed to have to do was to transfer those client relationships to my other staff members as lead advisors in order to free up capacity for me to do things that I can't, that no one else really in the firm can do. And the most valuable one of those things is actually be the person who is generating the growth, driving the growth, generating the revenue for the firm. And so the only way that you can do that is, you can, if you're going to grow, you basically either have to do one of several things. You can get rid of your smaller clients and only work with larger clients. You can outsource operations that you don't consider vital. You can delegate, or you can ignore them, which really isn't a long-term strategy. So I wanted a more structured way in terms of how we were going to allow me to focus on the most value-added things I do, which is meeting with clients and generating revenue.
Yeah, thanks. Why now? What was the moment that you decided it was time to dive in and just make this change, rip the Band-Aid? What was that?
I think, I've been in several different coaching groups. The most prominent one of which I'm in is a CEG Worldwide, and which is clearly focused on growing your business and especially working with high net worth and ultra high net worth clients. And so we were introduced last year to the great Cerulli Associates study of the Great Wealth Transfer, which is between now and 2048, $124 billion are going to be transferred, mostly with the baby boomers dying off. And you combine, so there's going to be a lot of need for services, and you combine that with the fact that Cerulli also reported that about 25% of advisors, roughly 100,000 of the 400,000 that call themselves financial advisors, are going to retire over the next 10 years. So you do the math, you've got more demand, you've got fewer advisors, and they're not being replaced. They're just, the wirehouses are not replacing them. They're not very successful in their training programs. And so, and so there's a lot more need, fewer clients. You do the math, you've got to become a lot more efficient at what you do, and you've got to spend your time on those value-added activities rather than the stuff that you can delegate or that aren't really kind of worth your time. And so I think that was the real impetus in terms of that. And really, behind that is that we want to try to help out as many people as possible. It's not just about growth for us. It's mainly about trying to help out as many people as possible because that's kind of one of our core value is really trying to be as helpful as we can to as many people. So yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. All right, thanks. Those are some good insights from Cerulli there too. I've definitely read that study. It's a good one. Okay, so far, what's been the hardest bump in the process? None of us love time tracking or anything. There's nothing great, but the insights are. What's been challenging for you through this process?
Well, there was a realization for me at the very beginning that because everything ran through me, that my staff was either spending time on things that weren't value added or they were underutilized in terms of the things I wanted them to do. Okay. So what I wanted them to do is of the 105 relationships we have is to be able to be the lead advisor on at least two-thirds of them. And
Yeah.
so in order for me to ask them to do that, and they're both CFPs, and they're both wonderful people, but they're not entrepreneurial by nature. I needed to take a step back and kind of, we had a great growth year last year, but I need to take a step back and really kind of put the plane on the ground and to work on, we're still working on it right now, work on outlining our business processes so that when we take on new clients and we turn the growth engine on next year, they will know what to do and how to do it without having to constantly run in my office and go, what do I do next? What do I do next? Because that's a situation that's going to frustrate them. It's going to frustrate me. It's going to frustrate the client experience. And so, yeah, we've been spending, 4 months on driving out our business processes, and it's work for me because that's what I did in a previous career 30 years ago. But the staff seems to really enjoy it. They seem to really get into making sure that everyone's on the same page in terms of what we're doing and how we're doing it. And then the real work is documenting it and putting it into, our software tool, which we happen to use Wealthbox, to document our business processes. So that's kind of one of the points. And then you have to be realistic about what the strengths and weaknesses are in terms of your staff members and um, and be realistic about what type of training they need in order to make sure that when they become lead advisors and manage the client experience, that they're equipped and trained in order to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, you kind of hit on the next question actually, which was the team, but I'm gonna ask you, what is the ideal outcome for you? Like what is the goal that you're trying to reach through all this? I mean, I think I know, but I'd like to hear it from
I
you.
think it's really a couple things. One, obviously growth and being able to help more people. But two, we're kind of divided into one of my CFPs has his real specialty is doing financial planning. The other one is really in investments and to really give them, have them step up to the plate and give them more challenges in terms of their professional career and have them grow more, and also deliver a better experience to the client overall. I mean, we do work together as a team, but the clients do need to have a single point of contact and it's got to stop being me. Okay. It just has to. And so doesn't mean that when they call in that if there's something that someone can't really deal with, they can't take to the team, but the clients really need a single point of contact. And to get me out of the loop of handling the routine stuff and more into the loop of generating revenue, strategic thinking, business planning, that type of stuff, and institutionalizing the knowledge that we have, because that's ultimately what makes the business more valuable.
Yeah, love that.
Mm-hmm.
And not wrong for sure. See it all the
Yeah,
time. All
that's
right,
right.
give me one thing. If there's an advisor in this room, what is the one thing that you would tell them?
So one of my favorite quotes I always use is from Stephen Covey, which is begin with the end in mind. Okay, so I've never wanted to manage 30 people. Okay, it's not in my DNA. It comes from experiences I had with my father, who I saw him go through the stress of managing 30 people.
Mhm.
But I suspect a lot of people some of the people in this call are solo practitioners. And okay, what's your end here? What are you trying to do? Okay, so there's a difference between a business and a practice. Okay. A practice, if it's just around you, ultimately will end with you. In other words, at some point you'll retire, you'll try to sell it. And because your knowledge hasn't become institutionalized, and this is some work that I did last year when I got my SEPA designation about learning how to work with small business owners. Um, your business won't be worth very much. Okay. The most that'll happen is someone will pay you in order for you to stay on and transition the clients to them.
Mhm.
If you have a business has institutional knowledge, and if you decide to sell it or one of 15 other different ways you can transfer your business, it'll have a lot more value. If you're not the person who is the hero to all of your clients, and you elevate your staff members to be that hero to clients, so that the value will transfer when with them when you transfer the business, right?
Right.
That's really the question, which is that, are you running a practice or a business? Okay, to
Yeah.
me, practice is something that you do when you go to the golf range or when you hit a tennis ball up against a wall. A business has value, it continues beyond you, and that's really your legacy to your clients and to your family members when that's able to be transferred, however it's transferred. So, yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Chris. I appreciate you sharing. Kind of
Yeah.
jumped us off, hit a lot of key points in our work together. So, what I appreciate a lot about your story is it's not exactly about arriving, it is that evolution, it is about building. It's
Mhm.
fantastic. Yeah.
It is about building. Thank you, Chris. It's great insight for your firm and for other firms. But in the ARCS Anvil, we have one central question. Am I actually building the firm I set out to build, or am I just keeping up with what it's become? Growth doesn't create organizational problems. Growth amplifies whatever your organization is already. The foundation is strong. If the foundation is strong, it creates freedom. If it isn't, it magnifies every single crack.
For sure, for sure. We've been doing a survey over several months, and many people in this room and even in past months have completed it. There's a unique stat that came out of that I really want to share for everybody that completed it. 100% of advisors who completed the assessment had a clear vision for where their firm was going, but almost none could say that their team knew what that vision was with the same clarity, or most importantly, understood their own part in helping reach it. So, what does that mean? That means that the business has changed, right? The organization was never intentionally changed with it. Okay. Growth changes what is required of everyone inside the firm. You just heard this with Chris. Okay. So if you want to see where there might be opportunities and a jumping off point, this assessment is a great place to start. We're going to drop it in the chat really quick. Tamara, if you can drop that in the chat. It is 9 simple questions, multiple choice, and it's going to take you less than 2 minutes. Okay, so while you do that, I think it's important to know who you're hearing from today. We already met Chris, but I want to introduce Tamara. This is Tamara. She's an executive consultant with the ARCS Anvil. She came to us through a mutual friend of ours, Miss Marie Swift, in the industry, and she has a lot of experience through her many years with RIA firms. She's been a COO, a CISO, a CCO, and she's an EOS integrator. It's a lot of O's and EOS's and lots of acronyms. I mean, she's seen every part and every CYA function in a firm. She's a builder by nature and honestly just a pleasure to work with. So I'm going to turn it back over to her, and she's going to share more about what it means for a founder or advisor's evolution as a firm grows.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you, Claire. I am grateful for our partnership and what we build and the vision we share, because we
Yeah.
do share this vision together.
Yeah.
As firms grow, the businesses depend on the founder's ability to build new leadership around them, create alignment, and develop the capacity for continued growth. One of the most important lessons I've learned in my operational roles is simple. Delegating chaos only creates more chaos. At the ARCS Anvil, we flip that model. Here's how it looks. Before delegating, we evaluate. We elevate, and then we document the process. We make sure that everyone is clear on what success looks like. We define the outcome we're trying to achieve. It's just not a list of tasks. We define and identify the person and the technology best suited to own it. Then we build the workflow, documentation, and accountability around that outcome. Only then do we delegate. This shift alone transforms teams. People aren't just performing tasks, they are owning outcomes. Advisors gain time, operations teams gain autonomy, compliance becomes cleaner, more predictable, and the founder, they now have the space to lead instead of triage. Here's a story that sticks with me. Firms' owners each had their own specific prospect process. Customer service associate who supported this process had to keep track of every detail, every step for every advisor. That's a clear bottleneck right there. But the CSA understood the outcome we were aiming for and took ownership of it. We built a defined path that was incorporated directly into the CRM workflow so she could execute the process confidently. There was no rework, no back and forth emails, no waiting for advisor approval. That process became the guide instead of the advisor being the guide. That is operational durability. And that's what Chris has been building inside his own firm.
Exactly. Exactly. Nobody chooses drift, right? Nobody wants organizational drift. And Chris isn't trying to remove himself from the business, right? He's intentionally removing himself from the work that no longer requires him. Okay. And that's a really important distinction because nobody wakes up one morning and decides they want to become the bottleneck. It just happens one decision at a time. One approval comes back because it's faster, then another. But being intentional about where you're trying to go so that you remove yourself out of the things that no longer require you, that's a conscious decision to no longer allow for organizational drift in your business. Okay.
That's right, Claire. Drift shows up when clarity fades. Trust begins with shared expectations, clear ownership and accountability, not blind delegation. The antidote is where we begin our work. When we begin our work with a firm or advisor, the structure of our process matters. We start with a team first. If you don't have a team, we map that path towards your first hire or define what your shared services might look like with vendors supporting you. Is everyone in the right seat and able to effectively accomplish their directives as part of their firm's goal? Next, we look at the technology. Is it solidified, carrying its own weight? Or is the technology so siloed it needs a bridge to function efficiently? Third, we look at your service model. When was the last time you looked at your service model? Or modified it, or reviewed the pricing to make sure that you were delivering on what you promised to the client? Has your pricing model adapted to represent what it should in terms of the service and output? These three phrases of the foundation set it all up for future success. Because as we make these decisions, we're not solving for today, we're solving for the future, towards your ultimate goal. Then we work backwards to build that structure to support your vision. This is when our work gets really surgical, which I love this part. We develop processes, communications, workflows, automations, training, so that it doesn't involve shadowing the advisor at every turn and builds autonomy from the beginning. If you require a trainee to shadow you, you are training codependency from the start. There is a time and a place for shadowing, but it should not be your default. Next, we give visibility to the success. You can't manage what you can't measure. So then we establish KPIs to keep track of leading and lagging indicators, allowing you to refine and adjust in real time what you have just built. At the ARC's Anvil, we can't just advise. We have to build.
Yeah, we're builders. We're builders. We enjoy it. Just like you, you're building businesses of your own,
Yeah.
and you've already done that. One of the things we realized as we worked with more and more firms is that our goal was to help founders step out of the middle of the business. We couldn't build a model that put them right back in it, right? So if we're asking them to take a step out, take a step up, bring your team up with you, we can't then put you back in the middle of it. Think about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? If we spend an hour helping a founder think differently about the business and then send them back to explain it to their team, translate it into workflows, document the process, build the project plans, answer every question along the way, what have we really actually accomplished? We've just given them another project to manage. We've recreated the very bottleneck that we've been trying to eliminate. And that realization is what changed the way that we built the ARCS Anvil. Instead of working with only the founder, we created two paths. One is built for the advisor or CEO of the firm, and that's where we focus on leadership, organizational structure, service model, pricing, long-term direction that speaks to the vision, and the decisions that shape where the firm is going. Okay. The second is built for the operations leader or the person responsible for making that real vision come to life. Okay. Together, we're building the workflows, we're creating the service standards, improving technology, developing the project plans to follow, strengthening communication. We're also creating the operational foundation that supports the direction that has been set. Okay. Because just having the idea doesn't actually create capacity. The organization and the teams do. And organizations aren't built through conversations alone. They're built by people responsible for carrying them forward every day. Everything that we've talked about today comes back to one thing: building the foundation that will carry you, your team, and your business into the future. All right. I mean, even thinking back to Chris, when he joined us, he wasn't looking for another idea. He already knew where he wanted to take his firm. He was looking for someone that could help him build the organization that would get him there. Okay. So that's what we're working on together. So if you're a solo advisor, we work directly alongside you as you build the foundation. If you already have a team, we're bringing into the process. We're going to work with them too, so they're not carrying every decision, every workflow, every change back into the business yourself, because the goal isn't to make you the project manager of your own transformation. Sure, you're accountable, but the goal is to help your organization be capable of carrying it with you. Chris talked about valuation. Your valuation is so much more successful and higher when the time comes for you to sell if it's about the organization, right? Because if it's founder dependent, it's not going to be as valuable, right? You've got some risk that you carry there. So Tamara, tell everybody what happens when someone decides they're ready to take the first step. Like when you make that decision to step in and make the change in your business.
Yeah. Whether you're joining us for the coaching side or the consulting side, the goal is the same. We're not here to hand you a binder full of recommendations. We're here to build alongside you. For some firms, that's helping the founder build the leadership and structure they need before they make their first hire. For others, it's working directly with a leadership team and operations to build the systems, the workflow, and accountability that supports the firm's next stage of growth. And when the work is complete, many firms choose to stay connected through our advisor and operations communities, where they continue learning alongside their peers facing these same challenges.
So before we wrap up, I actually want to open it up. We have a few minutes left. I think we should take a little bit of Q&A and take advantage of these last couple of minutes. This is unscripted. We weren't ready for it. But if you want to pop it in the chat there, we'd love to be able to answer any of your questions that you might have about a specific process or anything that we're talking about. If we don't have it, then I'll kind of go into the wrap up here. Anybody? No questions? Everybody's floating? Okay. Love it. All right. So as we're wrapping up, let's leave you with this final thought. Am I actually building the firm that I set out to build, or am I keeping up with the firm that it has become? Because if this feels like the season to build the firm you intend and not just maintain the one that grew around you, right? Through the organizational drift, we really want to explore this with you. You can talk through it, grab a time, we'll share a meeting link in the chat. And then, Chris, I really want to thank you for taking the time to talk to us today. This is really important stuff. And knowing that you're living and going through this transformation, the payoff is going to be incredible. So thank you to everybody who attended this quick session on growing your firm beyond you and the little principles that we left you with in the process of doing that. Really appreciate you. Yeah.
Yeah, and the links to the firm assessment is also in the chat. So we'd love to have you fill that out, and so you can kind of see, is this something for you?
Yeah. All right. Thanks, everybody. Ended quick. Nice. Bye.
Bye.